Hey there, welcome to another episode of Cinema Crunch. My name is Rose Donahue, and we are filming at the Quantum Arc Media Studio in Las Vegas, Nevada. When you're starting as a filmmaker, it's nice to get connected with some production companies so you can work on some of their jobs. As you get more into it, you might want to start your own production company. We'll be talking about both of those things and more with owner of Brink Films, Artie Delgado. Thanks for joining me, Artie.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Rose. Thank you.
Totally. So you're joining us from LA.
I am. Yeah, we just came in last night. And interesting story, but yes, we did make it here, and we're honored to be here at the Quantum Arc Studio. So yeah, very good.
Cool. Tell me a little bit about your filmmaking career. You've been filming in LA for 8 years now.
Yep.
And you were in the music industry before that.
I was,
And then
yes.
you've had a life-changing event. So break down some of your background for me.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's been quite a journey, and when you have it in a scenario that happened to us, at least me in 2001, it started a whole new life for me, really. Going back, I was a hip hop artist for a number of years. I did a couple of albums. That was what I wanted to do as a career. And then I realized that may not pay my mortgage as far as my talent. So, but in 2001, I got rear-ended by a drunk driver. And that took me out quite a bit for a couple of years, recovering from that. I sustained 2 third-degree burns from both my hands on that. And so with that, I had to relearn everything all over again at 26. And so with that, I feel like, we talked about this earlier, it feels like I'm living on bonus time. And so that's where all this energy comes from, and the magnitude you want to try and go as fast as possible, accomplish as much as possible, and have purpose behind it. And there's a different way of thinking behind now what we do. So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell, kind of where I started my career. Being a musician, I was already used to being on one side of the camera, being on the front end.
Of course.
And now I feel like my talents are a lot more effective being on the other side of the camera, and that's on the back side. So yeah.
Sure. Well, I guess you kind of have some transferable skills from having been in front.
Quite a bit, yeah.
To how you look at things
Sure,
now.
yeah. When you've been on the other side of the camera, you know what you're looking for from now your talent because you've been there. And as you're doing music videos, you know what you can do to an artist and how you can rejuvenate an artist or encourage an artist or make them look good because you've been on that side and what you're looking for as an artist. So yes, definitely a lot of those skills have helped. Also, I was mixing and mastering records, so music was my thing. So
you were producing.
I was already doing a lot of that.
An artist, right?
Absolutely. And so when you are editing in the film industry, you have 2 lines. You have the editing video side and you have the audio side. I've pretty much mastered the bottom audio side already. I'd been doing that for years. So really all I had to do was pick up the video side of things, and that was an advantage. So when we do our sound scoring or when we do a lot of our music selection or anything, that already is an advantage because I've been doing it for so long. So that's been just a talent that I've just been able to cross over into the video side, and it's helped quite a bit. So yeah.
Audio is so valuable for creating quality content.
Yeah.
People will say sometimes even a kind of weird image is forgivable if the audio is good, but if you have the cleanest image and the audio is bad, people just immediately get taken out of the fantasy of their moment.
It's really the first thing that sets apart from amateur to the professional. It's the first thing we notice. We notice mistakes faster than we do a great shot. And so the audio is the first thing you do notice if you hear air, hiss, all these things. So yeah, absolutely. And that's the same thing in the music industry. You can hear a bad recording. You can hear a lot of that. So that is one of the things you really want to get perfecting on quick.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So you were in the music industry when you had the car accident.
Yeah.
And then after that, you kind of reevaluated where you were coming from in life, it sounded like from our earlier conversation. Just bringing energy to everything, bringing value to all the time because you have this bonus time, as you call it. How did you decide to switch into film?
Yeah, I think I chose it. It chose me. I was telling you earlier, I think I've done every job you can imagine. I've been a butcher. I've worked in grocery stores. I've worked in insurance companies. I was an EMT for 3 years where I drove an ambulance. I've worked in banks. I was a loan officer. I've done so many different things, and this is the one industry that's really stuck. And so when I got into this, I got given a chance. Somebody gave me a shot at it. I worked for a mega church actually in Los Angeles. They gave me a shot at hiring me before I was really qualified to even work there. But the one thing that they did hire me based off of was the people skill, was the love for people. And that's what they saw, and they said, "You're hired." And I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I literally, they hired me and didn't know what to do with me. I didn't even know what to do. So I was making up my job description as I went by. And so they gave me a shot at it, and I just kept going at it and created Brink Films back in 2014. And one thing that's very special between me and my church, Water of Life, has been that they have allowed me to go outside to create, to learn, and I've brought back a lot of those skills back to the church. So I still am there even today because of the love that I have for that. And as long as that relationship is still a give and take, they know that they're giving, so they can have what I'm bringing back. I'll continue to stay with them. So that's a little
awesome.
of my background, that I was given a chance when I didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to take full advantage of that. And my pastor one time asked, "You are very talented, but it doesn't matter how talented you are, what will you do with it?" And so that's the big thing that's always ringing around my whole career and my purpose and what I do in this film industry is, yes, I want to be the best and I want to be excellent, and I want to see, even as friends as even Quantum Arc with Dustin and Derek and just the guys that I see doing stuff, amazing stuff, but it's about what we do with those that make the real difference. And I think if you can do that, that will be, to me, my new success.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Would you say that experience of being able to go out and learn and bring it back, is that sort of a leadership technique you use with your team
Yeah,
today?
it's so underestimated, I think, that when leaders don't realize, when you give your team and people chances to fail, you don't realize what you're not giving them a real opportunity to grow. And I think as leaders in training or management, we tend to want control. We tend to oversee it. We tend to want our hands in everything. And what I was given was that opportunity, was a little freedom. I think as an artist, we already boycott the idea of rules. We want to break those rules. If you tell me I can't shoot there, I want to go shoot there. If you tell me that can't be done in post, I want to figure out how I can make it happen. So we already want to break the rules. I think in great leadership, it is allowing your people to fail and discover their limits on their own a little bit, give some freedom. And I think I'm learning that as I go with my team as well, is to you make that decision. I think you can make that best decision. If it fails, you will learn more from that failure, as I have with many fails. The difference between me and them is I've just been okay with failing a lot more times. So I've gotten more comfortable with failing because I know failing 10 times, by that 11th time we talked about, I will be better.
Right. People underestimate the value of trying and failing and moving past that because of the learning that you gain from that experience.
Correct. Yeah, there is so much learning and failure that you we actually have now embraced it, where we actually do projects to say, we've never done this before, let's just go out and fail.
Let's just do it.
Let's just go out and fail.
That's such a good
Let's
way to
just
do
go
it.
do it and do it and do it. And then when we get that call from, say, a commercial concept, we have already done this once before.
For sure.
So this is kind of a start of that failure. You just got to go out and do it.
Right. And then you get a new skill.
Correct.
You figure out what went wrong, you move on, and you have a new skill.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what are some other things? You are the owner of Brink Films.
Yep.
You've got a whole team that you work with, and you work with the community. What are some things that you like to bring to the table as the owner, as the leader of that team?
One thing that I really like to speak to these guys is that, as long as we've talked about purpose, but also the ability of making change in what you do, meaning you have to be growing on a constant basis, always be growing. That means that sometimes I come off with, no matter how good they do, I've always got something to say about it, right? And that's to just be excellent. But if you're always debriefing and you're always fixing the things, you just keep getting better, you're going to have less and less fixes.
Totally.
And so that's what I try to bring to the team constantly, is that you always have to be evaluating yourself, and let's talk about it. Let's do this project, and afterwards, I want to hear from you. What did you feel? I want to always be doing that. So that's something I bring to the team quite a bit. I want them to think about. I also want to bring to the fact that you can do this, meaning one of the things that we as artists, we sometimes make this look easy. They don't know how much we've put in years behind this. But one thing that makes it, I think, a little bit different of what we do is that we do have a way of gathering people that say, I feel I can do this. You've made this look an availability that this is reachable. I can do this. And so that's, I think, a big thing in your team members, is to know that you can be there.
Yeah.
You just got to put that work ethic in it first. And so that's what we try to bring. And, like a lot to build with our community. That's another thing we definitely build with. And I think it's a great opportunity to build with interns and people in the community, to bring them involved, because they can feel like, hey, it may not have been the greatest filming day or whatever, but we just changed a kid's life. We did this premiere for the first time a couple of years ago without, like I said, we wanted to go out and fail. We put on our own premiere, we made a project, we did this thing, and when we did it, we were done. We ended up raising money for this nonprofit organization that, okay, it was our first fail, but we raised money and it changed the lives of kids. And to that right there is so satisfying that you'll be okay with a lot more failures. You'll be okay with that because you know there's other reasons that are going into your filmmaking career. And that's kind of what I want to bring to the table, is something different.
Tell me a little bit about the nonprofit that you guys work with.
Yeah, we have a nonprofit that we work with called Justice for Youth. This is a funny story. The guy who runs this used to be a fan of mine when I was a hip hop artist.
Oh,
so
no way.
this is a kid that I saw at all my shows. He was always going to these shows. I saw him growing up. He came with all his friends, and we've kept in touch. 15 years later, I see now he's involved, and now he's running this nonprofit. And I saw a connection between him and this youth, kids who are without fathers, kids who are dropped out of high schools, kids who are going through drug abuses and gang-related issues and things like that. And I saw the connection that he has, and it was just so much I wanted part of that. And I thought, well, there's a disconnect I don't have with these necessarily kids, but how can I make a change? How can I help that industry? So we got involved, and we started producing content for them. And since we've been involved for the last 3 years, there's been so much growth in them, and I've been now considered like a kind of a mentor to some of these kids. And I see the need, and I see the kids that just want to know what you're doing. They want to do what you do, and the need for these, they just need that. And so that's how that got involved. And so now really everything that I'm involved in any which way, it will involve them somehow. Somehow we will involve them. And so far we've done 2 premieres that have just, people have come to support us as a company, supported our films, but yet they're help supporting this nonprofit. And so
Yeah, that's great.
it's been really good to be part of that.
Yeah, well, as you're saying, you work with a purpose. So no matter what you guys are making, even if it is a fail project, an exploration project, for the final product to turn around a profit to go towards, not a profit, but to turn around the fundraising to go towards those kids.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It was a year ago that I discovered kind of what my career drive was going towards, and went to a training course, and I realized that wasn't the way I wanted to go anymore. I realized that if that's the ending result, when you see guys who've been doing it for 30 years, and that's the ending result based on what they've had to sacrifice to do, whatever the case is, to me, everyone's got to find their level of what success means to them. And to me, until you find that, you're kind of in a matrix. You're kind of discovering yourself. You're figuring out but when you find that moment, when you found out what your purpose is, it changes everything. And you can go through fine and acceptance, and you can look at things a whole lot with a different light. And that's what I've discovered last year. So that's why we've gone so quickly, getting a new creative space involving this nonprofit in there, and having a place for mentor programs and things like that, where we'll start training kids and things like that. So, and again, this is just above and beyond just our regular routine of doing film projects and commercials and and all of that. So this is just like what you guys tend to do. You take on these passion projects. These kids are my passion.
Nice.
And it is really an emotional thing that I get in when I talk to them. And it's so much more than just filmmaking. And if I can do a career where I make films and I'm doing what I love, and you're making an impact, it is quite something that I wish for everybody to find.
Yeah, that's great. So what are some things that you look for when you're building out your team for these projects?
Well, one of the things that you have to have is people first. That's the number one thing. You have to engage in seeing how do they treat people, how are they engaged with that? Because in my experience, this industry is people-based. You guys are a prime example of that, of how the relationship has grown merely on just relation. Yes, you want to come correct. You guys are excellent in what you guys do, no doubt. But I think that's more of like the relationship that has really been a more important thing for me. And I think that's what I try to look for in my team, is to see how their engagement is with people. Do they value people? Let me tell you a quick story. I did one shoot where a guy of mine, we were shooting a thing for basically a CityLink event where it was feeding homeless. And there was a guy who was homeless, and he kept wanting to get in one of my guys' camera, like in front of his camera. And one of my guys came to me, he's like, dude, this guy he wants me to keep filming him. He wants me to keep filming him. So I told him, I said, listen, film him.
Yeah.
Stop what you're doing and film him. You don't realize what you're doing to somebody at that moment. We'll get all the other shots. We got plenty of time to get all the shots we need. We're fine. We're not on a schedule. Just take the time and film him and see what that does for you. And so he was like, really? You want me to do? But he's talking about, doesn't matter. Just film him. So maybe a half hour later, I happened to be filming, and I looked up from a distance. I could see my guy filming this guy. He was basically kind of interviewing the guy. He was just talking, to the camera. but he was using the wrong lens. He wasn't even really filming. You could tell he was using a zoom lens, but he was just doing it to satisfy this thing. And it just showed me something about his ability to say he learned, he got it. He's saying, yes, the people was more important, and it changed his life. He saw this, and he says, I get it. I get what that did. This guy, it changed his just perspective. You gave him time. He doesn't have family. You gave him time. You gave him something different. And I don't think we see that sometimes. And so I look for that. That guy now is my right-hand guy. I mean, that is really, he has a value of people. He has a value of what's important. And to me, that's what's important. Is people. So.
Yeah, that's so for however technically skilled someone may be, to have that interpersonal relationship or ability to have that relationship or treat people with kindness is important to being part of the team.
You can train everybody else. You can train the technology, you can train the gear, you can train all that, but something about with people and how they engage, that's something that you have to work on really hard. And to me, if that's your number one, then that's the first thing I look for. The camera gear will teach all that. We'll figure all that as we go,
Nice.
So, yeah.
So how did you decide to start your own production company?
I think what got me really started was kind of fed up with me in the chase of trying to go, like in the film, like in the music industry, you're chasing getting on a label. You're always going after, I'm trying to get signed, I'm trying to get on a label. I need them to discover me. I need to get... Well, back then I got tired of doing that, so I started my own label. So when you find that chase, you're like, I don't want to chase it. So starting the film company, I handle the same thing I do in this film industry like I do the film industry. I mean, all the music industry. I consider myself an athlete in the film industry. So that means that I am trying to be the best in this sport. And that means that I'm training, I'm working out on a daily, I'm watching my playback reels. I'm watching I'm discovering all that. Totally. I do it just like an athlete. I am getting, I'm getting myself on, I'm taking care of my body. I'm making sure that if I'm a Steadicam operator, I got to make sure my back is long term. I handle it all like that. So with my film company, the idea is that this is going to be a sport for me. And I want to be the best, just like you guys want to be the best. And we have a friendly competition, which means I'm here looking at all your guys' stuff here, and I love it, and it rejuvenates me, and it makes me go back and go, gosh, I want to be better. That's what got me started into creating a film company, was to say, I want to do it my way, just like you guys want to do things your way. And as artists, that's what makes us unique, is to do it your way. We don't follow the rules like everyone else, and some of the biggest successes I've seen have been the guys who have made their own rules. You got to live by your own rules, you got to make your own rules, but you have to start somewhere, and that's where the company started. So that's why I said, I got to make this happen now.
Yeah. And you brought that purpose and the customer first, human interaction first to the table. Yeah. And those really seem to drive the work you do.
I want people to know that when they hear the word Brink Films, they know that there's something way more beyond that. People, when they see even in the community we're in right now, they're seeing the name constantly come up. But there's a different connection. They're not just saying, oh, they're just a film company. They're going, yeah, those guys are on the chamber. Those guys are actually with Justice for Youth. Those guys there's way more involvement than just, the film company stuff, cool. Because we bring excellence to that game. We hope to stay busy with that. But again, we make noise with other things we're involved with. So, yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. So is there anything else you want to share? Any tips or tricks that you want to tell the audience before we wrap up?
Well, I'm so honored to just first be here and be asked to be part of this team. And you guys are a huge influence to what we do. I brag about you guys quite a bit.
Oh, that's super sweet. Thank you.
But what we learn from each other. There was a quick story. When I got hired for that church many years ago, I took someone else's job at the time because I brought in something different, which was people. And when I got hired, I was not technically inclined. And I sat there for the first 6 months not wanting to ask that guy who knew how to do all the technical questions. I didn't know how to ask him anything because I felt kind of prideful that I felt I can't ask him anything because I'm hired to take his job. I can't ask him any questions. I need to be able to know this. I'm going to figure it out. And 6 months went by and I figured I could not figure this out. So I finally asked him, bro, help me out, figure this out. How do I do this, and that? He came and showed me how to work everything around that system. And it was that day that I realized the more humble we are, the more better we will become. And I used the next 2 years dissecting his brain. And that guy has made me one of the very best editors because he's taught me all the technical sides. I knew the organic sides of what I wanted, but the technical sides he trained me. And so I would say that be humble. We need more humble people in this industry. I think we need to team up more. I think we as artists need to collaborate more than we think. We shouldn't be chasing so much, I think, of, we want to be executives. I want to be the power horse of a company. I want to be the same thing that we go after. We want to be that too, and I think we can do that when we collaborate more. And so that's what I believe in our team, and I try to train them and say we will be but stronger, just like you guys. You guys show very good team camaraderie, and I think that's huge, and I commend you guys for that. So
thank you. Yeah. Well, thanks for being here. You brought your team along, so super fun having them.
Yes.
Where can our audience learn a little bit more about you and check out Brink Films?
Sure. We are, of course, IG, Brink Films. We have a website called brinkbaby.com, and you can find all our content on that, along with a podcast show as well, which we do bring in a lot of people like yourselves, other artists, even brought in my dad to talk about work ethic and where I got it from and my history with that. I talk about my rap career and what that was like, and so you get to see the old footage and things like that. So yeah, brinkbaby.com. You can find a lot of us out there. We are in the city of Pomona. Just got our first studio-based location, so we are building that out. We'll have a red carpet grand opening soon, so we're excited about all of that. So,
amazing. Yeah. Lots of things going on.
Lots happening.
Stay focused is the podcast. Sorry we didn't get to talk about that, but we'll just have to do it another time.
I'd be honored. I'd be honored.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Artie. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rose.
And thank you all for tuning into this episode of Cinema Crunch. Again, my name is Rose Donahue, and we're filming at the Quantum Arc Media Studio in Las Vegas, Nevada. Catch you next time.